to my channel. It's Destroyer Deception. J. Chaos here with another video. Today's video, we will ask the question: is Yeshua plucking corn on the Sabbath proof of abolishing the Sabbath? Is Yeshua plucking corn on the Sabbath day proof of abolishing the Sabbath day? Matthew chapter 12, verse 1 through 9. And we'll read the first two verses and we'll stop right there for a moment. And it reads, "At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were in hunger, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day." So let's take a break for a moment before we get into Yeshua's response. Three things I want you guys to pay attention to before we go to the scripture. The first thing is the disciples was hungry. The second thing is the disciples began to pluck corn on the Sabbath day. The third thing is the Pharisees questioning Yeshua, saying, hey, why are your disciples plucking corn on the Sabbath day, which is unlawful to do? So there's an important scripture that we need to read first to begin to understand before we get into Yeshua's response. Let's go over to 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16 to 17, and it reads, "All scripture is given by inspiration of God, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works." Now, we know Paul understood and communicated to Timothy and to all the readers that will read his epistle, his letter to the people, all the scriptures, every scripture that was given, every word that comes out of the mouth of God was for our instruction in righteousness, to show us the right way in which we should go. We know if you have seen some of my other previous videos, you would know that the whole purpose of the law and the prophets is for our learning, for our instruction on how to love God and love our neighbor as ourselves. And so therefore, all the scripture is to show us in righteousness. And so now as we proceed on and hear Yeshua's response, we're going to understand why he referenced what he references, because he shows us through the law. These are the things that were done to show you the purpose of the law. The law is good. It's still in effect. We should still keep the Sabbath day. But when there's a need, we should meet that need. The law is not above doing what is right to an individual. So let's go and read Yeshua's response. Matthew chapter 12, verse 3 through 6, and it reads, "But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was a hungered, and they that were with him, how he entered into the house of God, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither of them which were with him, but only for the priests." So let's stop right there for a moment. So Yeshua's response was, remember what in the law of what you have written, that is written for our learning, for our growth, for our instruction in righteousness, that the priest showbread is not lawful for any of us to eat. But when you go back and read the story of David, David was in need. David and his men was hungry, and they needed food as they was running from Saul. And so the priests understood this, and they understood that at least if you kept yourself from women and so forth, that where you're clean, where you're not unclean, the more clean you can be, then this bread should be good for you. And therefore, he gave them the bread because he understood that, hey, the men are in need. Give them the bread so they can be revived and so forth and go about their business as normal. That was the whole purpose. And the Lord referenced the law to show them to show them the purpose of the law. So, matching, the disciples was hungry. They had a need. And so, in order to meet their need, they was in a cornfield and they just plucked the corn off to eat at that moment. It wasn't to where they was gathering a bunch of corn, taking it back home, cooking it, coming back to the field, doing it again, and actually doing work. For that's unlawful to do and definitely would not be right. But let's continue into the second example. Matthew chapter 12, verse 5 through 8, and it reads, "Or have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this meaneth, I would have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day." As the Lord has commanded certain things from the Levites and the priests, the Lord has said for all of us to rest on the Sabbath. But only the priests who on the Sabbath day are to do the will of the Lord are able to do work, while everyone else rests and so forth, and they are blameless before the Lord. Before this is the requirement of the Lord for the priests that are doing the service during their time period in which they're called to do the service that they're called to. We ask the question, is Yeshua plucking corn on the Sabbath proof of abolishing the Sabbath? Absolutely not. We see that the Lord just gave examples of why he's justified in doing what he did, only because there was a need. There was a need in regards to the priests. There was a need in regards to the disciples was hungry. So as they've been walking with Yeshua probably a couple of days and so forth, and they just haven't had any food in a couple of days, and therefore it was the Sabbath day, and they was in the cornfield, they was able to eat. The Lord allowed them to eat, to revive them and so forth as they were in need. And the same example of the priests that the Lord gave, that they were serving the Lord on the Sabbath and are blameless. They understood that, hey, there are certain things that you still need to do despite it being the Sabbath day or not. If your donkey or somebody's hurt or in the road or in a ditch, you're not going to just leave it there because it's the Sabbath day. You're going to do the right thing. Go get them and help them get up out the ditch, get up out of anything they fell in or fell off. And those are the purpose of the Sabbath. But we are to still continue to keep the Sabbath day and reverence it and do whatever we can to do to prevent working or doing what is unlawful. But if there's a need, we can meet that need. All right? Like the video. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. Turn your notification bells on. Share the video with whomever is in need. And subscribe right now. It's Destroy Deception. JK is here. And I'm out.